Another big time storm system and a cold blast is coming to the eastern parts of the US, including a nor'easter that will be riding up the coast. We have some big snowfall impacts for everyone circled in pink here, where winter storm warnings are in effect, and we also have extreme cold going all the way down south to Florida. Portions of Florida could be the coldest that we've seen in decades. Today in the world of weather, I'll track down the cold as well as who will see the worst impacts and the most snow from this storm. So tracking it out, we have a few different pieces in the atmosphere coming together to make our storm possible. We have this big cold blast coming in with Arctic air from the north. Out ahead of it, we have the subtropical jet bringing in energy, and it's this area of low pressure right here. This is going to link up with upper level energy and really strengthen once it reaches the east coast. Notice right now the pressure of our storm, which is barely formed yet, is 10-15 millibars. This will rapidly drop over the next few days, and if it drops 24 millibars in 24 hours, that's actually called a bomb cyclone, bombogenesis, which just means the storm is strengthening really fast. This ultimately brings heavy snow and also a lot of wind, and that's some serious concerns we'll be tracking for portions of the east coast Saturday and Sunday. Winter storm impacts are moderate to major in the orange and red portions of Georgia and the Carolinas in the southeast. Atlanta, Raleigh, Greenville, Jacksonville, y'all are most at risk. We also have a small area up here that we're watching near Cape Cod, portions of Massachusetts in the northeast. So anyone in orange or red, prepare for potentially major impacts to your day-to-day life this weekend, and you'll definitely want to be prepared for the storm. So let's track this all out. As I'm recording this on Friday evening, we have our first batch of snow falling across portions of the Appalachian Mountains, Kentucky, Tennessee. This batch will kind of expand over the next few hours as we see, and it'll really be our first piece of energy with the system. So you can see by the time we're waking up Saturday morning, we have this strengthening area of low pressure off the southeast coast. As these two areas of energy meet, that's where the heavier snow will be. So first of all, this piece of energy will kind of be moving southeast, while this piece of energy will be moving northeast, and they'll eventually link up. The thing is, in between these two pieces of energy, especially for cities like Raleigh and kind of this corridor just east of the Appalachian Mountains, there could be a little bit of a dry slot as you're stuck in between these two systems. So that's something to watch. However, from Asheville, North Carolina, all the way down into South Carolina, some pretty heavy snow will be moving your way and will be continuing to intensify over South Carolina. So this is a pretty snowy period all throughout Saturday. Heavy snow, some potentially heavy snow rates, and a lot of wind associated with the system. Here we are on Saturday evening. Notice that first piece of energy is starting to link up with our coastal low, and as we continue, everything just consolidates into this one big storm. Our area of low pressure will be strengthening off here the coast, and on this backside of the low, very heavy snow is expected. Everything starts to move to the northeast as we go onto the day Saturday night into Sunday morning, and still looking at very heavy snow along the coast. It's going to be a very sharp cutoff though between the heavy snow and like nearly no snow at all, especially for those along the coast. It just matters how close you are to that center of low pressure. Look at our storm though, it's very strong at this point. This is likely the bomb cyclone that's ongoing. A lot of energy associated with it. If the track of the storm was just a little bit to the west, just closer to the coast, we're going to have some very heavy snow impacts. The good thing is though, this will be mostly a fish storm. Outside of the Carolinas, the northeast will be mostly spared. 4 portions of the northeast, really the only ones to be impacted is far eastern Massachusetts near the Cape Cod Islands. You will get brushed by the outer edges of the storm, but notice most of the energy stays out over the water and the storm really just moves east. So instead of moving up north to the coast, it kind of moves too far east and only really delivers a glancing blow. For the most part, the northeast is looking snow free, and that is good because some of the snow here on the very strong low pressure would be incredible amounts, 2 to 3 feet of snow I would imagine if this moved inland, but since it's over the sea, it's just a fish storm, and that'll help mitigate a lot of the impacts. So backing it up again, the main areas of concern is in the Carolinas, portions of Georgia, portions of the southeast. That's where the two pieces of energy will link up. Once the storm develops and really strengthens, look, we almost have like an eye-like feature. It's kind of like a mini hurricane. It has that much energy with it. But by the time it's that strong, it'll be going off to sea, and again, it'll only deliver a glancing blow to portions of the northeast. So snow totals, here's one look at the model I was showing you. We have this corridor here. This is where that first piece of energy dives to the southeast, and we have the second piece here. This is where the coastal low actually starts strengthening. The wind starts picking up, and we get some very heavy snow near the coast. Notice notice, again, we have this dry slot in between. This is the area that kind of misses out between those two pieces of energy phasing. The really hard part about the forecast is exactly where that dry layer will be. Places especially like Raleigh and central North Carolina, y'all, will really be a tough forecast. Slight wiggles in either of these storms could mean a big difference, but right now it is possible we see less snowfall in those cities, especially compared to portions of South Carolina and portions to west and east. So kind of a snow hole is possible. However, if you aren't there, if you're in both of these circled areas, some heavy snow is nearly a guarantee. I like this model a little better, the national blend of models for your totals. We're expecting a good swath of 5 to 8 inches in South Carolina and portions of eastern Georgia, the Appalachian Mountains, portions of eastern Tennessee. Charlotte, y'all could be seeing the most snow you've seen in a long time with nearly 10 inches possible, potentially isolated spots more than that. Asheville, North Carolina, y'all could be seeing half a foot of snow. And again, portions of the Appalachian Mountains, y'all will likely see over a foot of snow. Atlanta, you're kind of going to be on the edge of this. I think there will be enough snow to accumulate at least an inch, maybe 1 to 3 inches. However, it won't be nearly as impactful as places to the northeast. Portions of the coast, this is where that coastal low strengthens. We could easily be talking 6, 8, even 12 inches of snow across portions here. So this is very impactful, especially considering how fast and heavy it's coming, and this will make travel very hazardous. So at least it's not ice, no ice threat with this, but just the sheer amount of snow is going to be impactful, and make sure you're staying up to date and prepared. Moving up to the northeast, again, it's just going to be oh so glancing of a blow. Portions of the Cape Cod, far eastern Massachusetts over the islands, y'all could maybe see a few inches. Look how sharp of a cutoff it is from 7 inches of snow to 3 inches of snow to 1 inch of snow. It's going to be a very tight gradient, and very subtle variations in the track of the low will have a huge impact on the snow totals. So we'll be watching that closely. Boston, you could get a glancing of snow, but nothing really that significant. New York, you'll probably stay mostly dry. Just a few light flurries are possible. Most of the action will be either over the Cape Cod or further out to sea. Here is a preliminary wind forecast. Notice out over in the ocean, as our storm really strengthens, we could be dealing with 60, 70, 80 plus mile per hour winds. So this is hurricane strength level winds. It's not a hurricane because it has snow with it, and it's a cold weather system, but it'll be nearly as strong. Again, the good news, most of the worst winds will be out to sea. However, portions of the east coast, y'all will still experience some pretty big impacts from not only wind, but also some big waves, and coastal flooding is possible. Here's a look at the wind forecast. Keep in mind, the worst of this wind, this is Saturday afternoon over portions of the Carolinas. This will be coming with snow, so we could have 40, 50 mile per hour wind gusts in addition to the snow, and that's enough to create some low visibility and potentially blizzard-like conditions. So very gusty winds. Here we are early Sunday morning. Look at this. Along the coast, winds as gusty as 60 miles per hour. That's tropical storm force winds associated with our storm system. All of this will be moving off to the northeast. But even though places like New York, places in New England won't necessarily be getting heavy snow, you'll still be getting the wind. So prepare for that. It's going to be a blustery day on your day Sunday. Everything will be settling down by the day on Monday. So yeah, prepare for snow, prepare for wind, potentially creating some blowing snow. The last thing is the very cold temperatures coming in. Something to note with this cold blast compared to last weekend's, it's going way further south. Portions of Florida will be record cold, especially on your day late Saturday and Sunday. And I know we still have some people without power from last week's ice storm. Unfortunately, this is bad news for those trying to stay warm. So definitely check in on your neighbors, especially in portions of the deep south, and if you know areas that are still without power. Here's how cold it could get. We're waking up Saturday morning to the teens and 20s. The freezing line is knocking on the door of Florida. Pretty much north of this line here, north of South Carolina, y'all will stay below freezing all day Saturday. Sunday morning, the cold air oozes south. Single digit temperatures for much of New England. Teens for the southeast. Places like Atlanta could be down to 17 degrees. But look at Florida. Look at how far south the freezing line goes. The freezing line creeps all the way near the southern tip of the peninsula. Places like Miami could get down to 38 degrees, which is very cold for Miami. Low to mid 20s for interior portions of Florida. So a very unusual cold blast is coming for the Sunshine State, which is typically warm and mild. A few things to note for Florida. First of all, falling iguanas are possible. This happens regularly when it gets cold, so watch out for that. Second of all, though, we could have some Gulf effect light snow showers for portions of western Florida. So near Tampa, areas just north of that. It's not entirely impossible that as the cold air moves over the warm Gulf, we generate enough moisture and precipitation for some very light snow flurries. Nothing will necessarily accumulate, no impact. impacts, but just the fact that it's possible that we're seeing light snow in Florida is pretty crazy. It really just shows how strong this cold blast is. So yeah, it's gonna get cold over the next few days. We have this bowling ball of cold air coming in. Let's look ahead into the future a little bit now past this storm. The coldest of the air will start moving out by Monday. Portions where we get heavy snow and a snowpack, it'll stay colder for longer. But for a lot of the rest of us, we'll generally see warming conditions, especially out in the west. The west has been warm. The west will continue to be warm. Going through the next week though, the first week of February, we're generally going to stay in our pattern of a warmer west and colder east. So we'll have occasional pockets of colder air moving into portions of the Midwest and the East Coast, and this pattern will continue at least until next weekend, so for the foreseeable future. The good news though is after this powerful storm moves off the East Coast, we're going to be entering a quieter period in terms of precipitation. So yeah, we could have a few light showers here and there, maybe a weak little system in portions of the eastern US, but largely we don't have any major winter storms, no major signals for big time snow, at least until next Friday. Next weekend it gets a little blurry, maybe some snow in the northeast, but in general, after this big time storm in the Carolinas, a much quieter period is ahead in terms of precipitation. So that's about all in the world of weather. Again, a very busy week, especially in the Carolinas and portions of the mid-Atlantic into the northeast. Watch out for the snow, especially North South Carolina where you're under the winter storm warnings, but also watch out for the wind all along that eastern seaboard. Beach erosion is possible, coastal flooding as the winds bring storm surge, if you want to call it that, onto shore, and then again prepare for the cold. So thanks for watching everyone. Hope you all are staying safe out there. See you next time.